Okay, in next part of the section 4, we are going to talk about the customization. Well, that is, well, say if I want to go back a little bit, say this image, well, we don't know the X label and Y label. Well, unless we want to explain that really well, and otherwise it could be confusing. And those are the things that we can easily add using the Matplotlib. And for example, here we are doing the X label, and then we are doing the Y label, and I'm also adding a title. So this is the title will be on the top of this plot. And eventually, remember on the y-axis, I'm using the population as billions, and this could be a little bit confusing. So instead of doing the 2, 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8, I'm going to do 0, 2b, 4b, 6b, and 8b, just to make the value on the y-axis a little bit more clear. And then to do that, you need to do a plot.y text, and then you can specify on each of the value what will be the label on that part. So like 0, 2b, 4b. Okay, and then I also want to add a few more data points just to extend the range of the x-axis a little bit so that we can see a better story. And say I'm adding the 1800 and 1850 and 1900, and then I'm also adding the population. And by the way, remember for this year we have a list of values, and then we are adding a list of the values. So right, we are adding one list to another list, and in Python this is called a list concatenation. So we simply concatenate or combine two lists together. Okay, and we are doing the same thing for the population part. Okay, so now this is an exercise, and we are using the GDP per capita and then the life expectancy, and you are expected to get to add the X label and the Y label, and then also the title. And in addition, well, you need to do the X ticks. Okay, so what we want to do 1K, 10K, and 100K. That is really important because we apply the log scale to the x-axis. So if we don't do the X text, and then this image may look confusing to some of the people. So go ahead and pause your video, and after you finish this part, and then we can continue. Okay, so go ahead and pause your video. Okay, so well, I guess you have already finished the coding, and we are doing a scattered plot, and then we apply the we apply the log scale to the x-axis, and then we should add the x label, y label, and then the title. And for the x ticks, well, for the 1,000, 10,000, and 100,000, and we are changing them to 1K, 10K, and 100K. Okay, so we are doing the X ticks instead of the Y ticks in this case. Okay, so the next part, we want to do the bubble plot. For the bubble plot, well, we started from the scatter plot, and then we want to change the size of the dots. Well, on this version, we have all the dots to have the same size. However, if you want to change the size, and then you can do that using the parameter s. So we are doing the scatter plot, and then we specify the x-axis and the y-axis, and then we also want to do the s. So s will be the size of each dot. Okay, and we are using the s, the size, to represent the population. So now remember, we have the x-axis to show the GDP per capita and the y-axis to show the life expectancy. And now we are adding one third dimension, and that is for the population of that country. Okay, so go ahead and change the code here. And by the way, well, here is just a little bit trick I did. Well, I took the population, and I cast it, or I changed it to a NumPy array. Why do I want to do a NumPy array? Because later I want to increase the value of the population by 50%. Okay, well, this might be a little bit weird, but the reason is, well, I want to get this plot. And if I don't increase the size of the bubble, and then for some of the dots, they are really too small, and then they are almost invisible. And then considering the size of this plot, and then I decided that I want to increase all the population by 50%. Well, and this is consistent because I apply this to all the countries. So I wouldn't say that's a cheating. Okay, so go ahead and then plug your code here, and after you finish this part, and you should get exactly the same thing. Well, the only big change will be this part. So go ahead and pause your video and do the coding here. Okay, so let's see my solution. Well, the change I made here is I want to use the scattered, and then the x-axis, the GDP per capita, and the y-axis, the life expectancy, and I specified the size of each dot to be the population. Okay, and then I got this. And for this one, I see a problem. The problem is I see some big bubbles, right? And for those bubbles, and there could be some smaller bubbles inside. And then because the bubble is too big and then not transparent at all, and then we don't see the smaller bubbles got overlapped inside. And then one of the easy fix should be we can apply the we can apply this part. We want to say edge color equals black. So edge color equals black here, and then the rest of them, they're all the same. So you just specify a edge color for each of the bubble. So well, I guess this part should be kind of easy, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you my code, and the change I want to make is here. So the edge color equals black, and then you should be able to see this one. And you see, indeed, there are some bigger bubbles and smaller bubbles, and there are some overlapping. Okay, and then if you want to interpret this plot, and then we have the GDP per capita on the x-axis and the life expectancy on the y-axis, and then for each of the bubble, that is one country, and the size of the bubble represents the population of the country. And some of the interesting observation, and you may have this one, a big country, another big country, and then those big countries are okay-ish on both the GDP per capita and the life expectancy, and then we also have a cluster here. Those are some of the really wealthy countries. They are doing very good on the GDP per capita and the life expectancy. And then for the upper right corner, those countries are not so big in population, right? Okay, so the final step. Okay, so the final step, we also have a color. Okay, so just now, remember we have the GDP per capita, and then the life expectancy, and then the size of the bubble. That is the population. And now we want to add one more thing. That is the color of each bubble. And we create a dictionary. Say Asian is right. Oops. Say Asian is red, and then Europe is green, and then Africa is blue, and Americas is yellow, and Oceania is black. Okay, so those are our color code. And then based on this color code, and then we have already, say we have already created a list of the colors. So now we have several things we want to do in the scattered plot. So x-axis, y-axis, and the size. So the size of the bubble, and then the edge color is black, and then we want to add the C, and C is for the color. So we are coloring each of the bubble to different color. And then, well, another issue is, we want to have the bubbles to be a little bit transparent. So play with the alpha controls the transparency, and then I suggest you try alpha equals 0.8, and then you may want to reduce it a little bit and see if that look even better. Okay, so go ahead and finish this part. And by the way, you also want to add the grid so we can see the grids of this plot, and this may look this a little bit nicer. And go ahead and produce this plot and see if you can get something I have got. Okay, so pause the video here again. Okay, so let's see my code. Okay, well, I specified the size of of this plot to be a little bit bigger. Well, just to have a large and readable plot. And then, well, x-axis, y-axis, the size, and then the edge color, those are the same. And then I specify the color to be this list, and then I try alpha equals 0.8, and then apply the log scale to the x-axis, and then I'm going to do a plot.grid equals true. So I'm adding the grids. And usually if you have a small plot, for example like this one, adding the grids may make the plot even harder to read, because the grid could be kind of annoying. But if you make the plot a little bit larger, and then adding the grid is not so bad. Okay, and then the next part here is a discussion question. How many dimensions are we showing with this plot? Okay, how many dimensions? We have the x-axis as the GDP per capita, the y-axis, and then what else? We have the size of the bubble. We also have the color of the bubble. So we have a total of 4 attributes we are able to present in one plot. Okay, and this is, well, we are getting a little bit closer to the industry level visualization, because, well, of course you can show plot after plot after plot. Well, you can do this way, but in industry, really, people want to see more information compressed in one plot. So this is the idea. Even though we are still doing a 2D plot, we are not doing any 3D stuff. However, we are able to incorporate a total of 4 features or 4 attributes into this visualization, right? And then the next question: what points can you make to the viewer? Okay, so now we can really talk about, we can really try to make sense of this plot. Okay, so remember we have the x-axis as the GDP, y as the life expectancy, and then red, Asia, okay, and green, Europe, and then Africa is blue, and America is yellow, and Oceania is black, right? Okay, let's see. What are the biggest bubbles? What are the 2 biggest bubbles? They are, if you check the population of the world, and then you will see the top 2 countries are China and India, right? And considering uh, the population of those 2 countries, and then both on the GDP per capita and on the life expectancy, those 2 countries are not so bad. And then remember, what is green? Green is Europe, right? And then for most of the Europe countries, they are small. You don't see really big green bubbles. Okay, and then where are the green bubbles? They almost all of them are on the upper right corner. What do they mean? That means those European countries, they are wealthy, and then they also have a longer life expectancy, right? And the next question: where is the United States? It's here, right? So for the United States and for the GDP per capita, United States is really, really great. However, for the life expectancy, it's still slightly below 80. So, well, probably United States can do even better on that. Okay, and what else? What else can we talk about? How about this red bubble? Okay, so most of the Asian countries, and they are doing okayish on the life expectancy and the GDP per capita. However, there is one right small bubble here. That country did really well in both GDP per capita and the life expectancy, and the life expectancy is impressive, right? It's the highest. So what country is that? I suspect that is Japan. Okay, and another interesting thing. So inside this bubble, that is India, right? And then there is a small bubble. So there is a smaller country in Asia. That country has almost the same GDP per capita and almost the same life expectancy. So what country is that? Well, I have 2 candidates, Bangladesh or Pakistan. So, well, if I have to choose one from that, and I suspect that is Bangladesh. Okay, so and then how about the blue bubbles? And blue bubbles are the African countries, right? And where are the African countries? They're on the lower left. What do they mean? Well, those are the countries that are not so wealthy, and then the people are not expected to live that long compared with the European countries or United States or Japan, right? So, well, the lower left we see a cluster. We see a cluster of the blue, and then going up a little bit, we see a cluster of red. And this means for a lot of the African countries, they are not doing that good, and then for some of the Asian countries, they are doing okayish, but well, there's still a big space to improve, right? Okay, so well, why I'm telling you this story? That is the storytelling you should do when you present this plot. Okay, so if you're plotting, if you're showing this plot to the audience, you can't say, okay, this is the plot. I have the GDP per capita, and I have the life expectancy, I have the color, I have the size, and then, okay, take a look. No, you can't do that. You have to guide your audience and then tell the story, get their attention to different big bubbles and then to different colors and to different clusters, and that is what you should do. You show the plot, you design the plot, you show the plot, and then you also have to guide the audience attention and by telling good stories. Okay, that is the soft skills I want you guys to develop in this course, and eventually you're going to use that in the end of this semester because you are going to do a presentation for your course project. Okay, and to sum up, well, when you are doing the histogram, and then you have to be very careful in specifying the number of the beans. And of course, if you want to make the number of the beans higher, and then you can highlight more details. But sometimes the details might be hard to explain, and then you don't have to do a very high number of the beans. Okay, and then we have seen the scatter plot, and then if you want to add the size and add the color of each dot, and then we are expanding the scatter plot to be a bubble plot. And for the bubble plot, we are able to add even more dimension of the data into the dataset, and then this plot will be meaningful, and then this give you the power to tell better stories. And that's cool. And sometimes if you want to tweak the bubble size a little bit, and for example, I increased all the bubble size by 50%, and go ahead and do that as long as you are consistent and no one is gonna blame you for doing this. Okay, so that's it for the section 04, and I will see you guys later. The next lecture we are gonna talk a little bit about the algorithms.